Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Who Knew, the weekly show where we discuss all things pop culture, comic books, movies, TV shows and games and tell you all the things you might not have known about them even though you already do. I'm Harry and as always I'm joined by my co-hosts Matthew.
Pleasure to be here. I've been up since 4 because of a fire alarm. Thank you, whichever flat that was.
And of course Annabelle.
Hello, I've been asleep all day.
Must be nice for some.
Good, yeah, it's real good. We're here again on a fresh week, ready to bring comic book, movie and TV show news straight to your ear holes, as we do every single Monday. Let's crack on with the show, shall we? As always, we've done one show. What am I going on about?
No, we've fallen into a
all the
routine.
Yeah. As always, straight into the news. So, anybody got any news they want to bring to the metaphorical table this week?
I'll open up with an offering of The Americans, Season 4, coming back March 16th on FX. It's a show about a Russian sleeper agent operating in Washington, America. It's gripping, it's tense, it's sexy at times. But that's just Carrie Russell. And I honestly believe it'll be the best show on TV if it maintains the quality of Season 3.
Awesome.
Yes, I've been watching it through legal means.
Yes, of
Definitely
course.
very legal means, as we all watch things.
I am modulating my voice so they can't find me.
My news, it's kind of a broad subject, but the Super Bowl happened last Sunday.
That was a game of football.
Yeah, American football. As is common in the Super Bowl, they put out a lot of one-of-a-kind adverts, and there were a lot of adverts that were of interest to us, such as a new trailer for the upcoming X-Men Apocalypse film, the upcoming Batman vs Superman film, the upcoming Ninja Turtles 2, Cloverfield Lane, and there was also this really weird trailer, which is the one I want to talk about the most, for Coca-Cola, where Ant-Man stole a Coke Mini off of the Hulk, and then they had a little fight in the streets of New York. It was so weird. It was, it's a funny advert and it's amusing and it's been voiced by Paul Rudd, so it's professional. But my favourite thing is I went online afterwards and there are legitimately fans of Marvel trying to figure out where in the Marvel Cinematic Universe continuity this fits in, as if it's part of the main
canon.
story
It's
of
real.
a universe. Yeah, it's canon.
Yeah.
It's a fucking Coke advert. It's not bloody canon. And they're all going, well, Ant-Man wasn't made until after the Avengers, and he mentions the Avengers in it, so it's obviously after, but then he didn't appear in the Avengers, and at the end of the Avengers 2, the Hulk, he disappeared in a plane, so why is he in a lab, and where does it fit?
And he went to go get Ant-Man's Coke. That's it.
Yeah, that's where he's got. Yeah, that's what happened. End of Avengers.
More importantly, who's leaving a Coke Mini just on the table? It's not that much in a Coke Mini.
Yeah.
No one's like, "Oh, I've bought this. I'll save it for later."
Special. It's my only treat. It's my only happiness in life.
Exactly.
Coke Mini.
Well,
Have a Coke Hulk. You're not you when you're thirsty.
Oh my goodness me.
Should we talk about the other Marvel stuff that was there? Or?
Yeah, we should definitely
Seems
talk about that.
Civil War looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Pretty
Shit,
darn good.
I didn't say about Civil
Didn't-
War.
didn't
Civil War is
remember
also a trailer that they put up, which is the main one that I was really excited for. Civil War looked really good. The 35 seconds that we
Yeah.
saw of it.
But like the watch going into the
Yeah,
arm,
that's the coolest
blocking the
bit.
shot.
Yeah.
Oh.
For those of you who didn't see it, it's a 35-second teaser clip of the upcoming Marvel Civil War film, which everybody's been excited for. It's taking one of Marvel's best known and possibly most enjoyable storylines to date and putting it onto film. And there's this great bit in it where Bucky, the Winter Soldier, goes to shoot Tony Stark in the face, it looks like. Tony Stark turns his what looks suspiciously like an Apple Watch into an Iron Man hand, clasps over the end of the gun, and Bucky fires. And then Robert Downey Jr.'s expression in that bit is absolutely magnificent.
That's the bit that sells it.
Yeah, it's like he was actually going to shoot me in the face.
Legitimately going to be shot in the face.
Also, the team lineups.
Crazy.
Yes, finally got to see
Ant-Man
those.
has a new suit from that.
Yeah, that looks exciting because the Ant-Man suit's very outdated for reasons.
For various reasons.
You can say it, it's Michael Douglas.
Yeah, so good. All the action, and there were some quite interesting bits, like if you noticed in the lineup, Captain America's shield has 4
yeah.
scrapes down it, which leads me to believe he gets in a altercation with Black Panther.
Yeah.
He's been speculated as being a sort of neutral party, but in the lineups he was listed as being on Iron Man's side.
He's chasing after Bucky, and I want to say the first trailer.
Yes, yeah.
You can't, it's not like explicitly shown as that, but he's kind of running down the same corridor or something, or the same tunnel.
And no Spidey.
Lack of Mr. Spider for you being such a massive Spider-Man
Yeah,
fan.
well, it's
obviously.
I think it's a good thing, to be honest, because Spider-Man finally being transferred from Sony to being allowed to be in the cinematic Marvel universe was really exciting, and obviously
Thank
it's going to
goodness.
be a big reveal. So I think that would be wasted if they did it in an advert. I'm very keen on them revealing nothing about Spider-Man until the film. I want to go in knowing Spider-Man is going to appear at some point in this film.
Well, we don't even know how Baron Zemo plays into it, Daniel Bruhl's character. He's been cast. We haven't seen anything from set photos of what he looks like.
I completely forgot he was in it until you just mentioned it.
That was the
then.
plan,
That's
good captain.
The plan. There we go.
You guys have been fighting among yourselves. I've made a Red Skull puppet.
It was a really impressive trailer. There wasn't much in terms of action. Like, we saw a lot of fight sequences in the last one, but this one was remarkably gripping.
Yeah, it's the right way. Like, I'm on board with it now. I don't particularly want to know anything else.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
It's not doing what some other trailers, namely, I will go with Batman vs Superman, have done, which is reveal absolutely
What could you be
everything.
insinuating
What could I
there?
be insinuating?
Every
There's
time a
nothing
trailer
like
comes
that.
out, they reveal another bad guy.
It's like, oh goodness, they're getting the whole DC roster out.
What happens when they get to like the 1,000 TV spots?
God,
Now
that's
you
so
shall
long.
fight Captain Carrot. There's the Batman vs Superman Turkish Airlines stuff as well.
Yeah, that was a odd crossover.
Yeah.
Turkish Airlines and Batman versus Superman.
It's a little strange.
It makes sense, like, to introduce the cities that way. It's just I got a little bit annoyed at the fact that Superman keeps rushing over that cafe and disrupting everyone reading their papers. And they're like, it's fine. It's become commonplace. That shouldn't be happening. X-Men Apocalypse?
Yeah, X-Men Apocalypse trailer was really solid. These Super Bowl trailers have a habit of being really
they
good.
have
Well, I
to.
suppose they go through
So,
a lot of
yeah,
checking.
because they've got
it's
to be
gonna
the
a
best
Super
of the
Bowl.
And it costs
best.
like $1 million per 30 seconds, so...
Yeah, which is why they're all so short as
Yeah.
well. That was really, we saw a lot more of Apocalypse, which was interesting, because I know the post-credit scene at the end of Days of Future Past, a lot of people were like, who's that girl? I'm like, that's not a girl, that's Apocalypse. And he's being played by Oscar Isaac, who
yeah.
plays Poe Dameron in the new... Not Superman, Star Wars. I said S and got
Disney have bought
confused.
DC as well?
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's interesting to see him play someone so good and someone so evil. So it'll be interesting to watch his
Like,
skills.
The tone of his voice kind of felt slower in comparison to kind of Star Wars, where it's like, so who talks first? You talk first, I talk first.
Yeah.
Sort
so,
of good at
Yeah.
being the dashing rogue, but also the evil bastard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to seeing, his range as an actor.
Yeah.
I'm quite excited for that. Of course, we also saw some more images of, well, not images, it's a clip, but we saw more images of the young versions of the X-Men we've all come to know and love. So Scott Summers, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler
Yeah,
as well.
isn't there?
We
We
saw
don't see
him.
Storm, do we?
We do. We see
yeah.
Halle Berry as Storm with her white
And then
eyes
there's,
and
no,
her
there's a
mohawk.
younger Storm as well.
Oh, is there? I don't think we saw younger Storm.
Yeah.
I definitely saw Storm Halle Berry, but I'm interested to see Nightcrawler back again, because I remember in the original trilogy they had Nightcrawler and he was really
The White
good.
House scene is really strong.
But the guy who played him refused to come back for the third one because he didn't like the amount of makeup
Yeah.
it took, which is understandable, because
Yeah.
when you saw it he had all of those scarred drawings all over his body that he had supposedly put on himself. So they replaced him with Hank McCoy. He was the replacement character, the blue acrobatic guy. It's nice to see him back, and of course Hank McCoy will be in there as well.
Yeah.
It's shaping up to look really good, so I'm excited for that.
Cloverfield Lane is
Yes.
a thing.
Yeah,
It
John,
wasn't
It's a thing.
2 months ago.
Yeah, John Goodman and Ramona Flowers, all in the underground bunker. But I'm curious to see how that goes, because there's been 2 trailers for it.
Yeah, there's the
And,
full one and then this.
It's interesting to see how different people interpret it, because some people interpreted it as they've all been in this underground bunker because the monster from the original Cloverfield has trashed the world and they're surviving in this wasteland. But some other people, me included, have drawn this kind of almost trapped vibe, because Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character says she was rescued from a car crash by
you can see
John Goodman, and she's now caught in this underground bunker, and John Goodman is constantly persuading her not to try and leave. So I'm wondering if it's this weird, he's kidnapped her into this like post-apocalyptic cult, and is the monster really out there? But then you hear what sounds like the monster in the trailer, so it's left me wondering, is it out there? And it's the tonality, it's a real, like, they're revealing nothing, so I'm really excited. I mean, I loved the first Cloverfield movie. I'm a big fan of kaiju films, the big robots or monsters battling out in
Pacific
a city.
Rim style.
Pacific Rim, Cloverfield, Godzilla, all of those films, they're my guilty pleasures. They don't necessarily have to be good, I just really enjoy them. So Cloverfield, I'm really excited to see that back, and I do hope we see the monster again.
One of the most fascinating things is that they kept it quiet for so long.
Yes,
it was under The Cellar, and then another title, and then Damien Chazelle, who wrote and directed Whiplash, came in and did a pass on the script.
Yeah, they've really kept it under wraps, because considering Cloverfield is quite a cult film, it's got quite a large following at this point, so for them to have kept it as well hidden as they did.
Especially when you consider, like, Cloverfield had the alternate reality game with, like, the Mr. Is it Mr. Slushy or Slushu? It's before it came out, there was like a single trailer, and people were like, oh, is it Voltron? Is it Pokemon? I don't think it had like a name attached or anything for at least 6 months. I'm
really impressed at how well hidden because when the trailer dropped, no one expected it. It was just out of nowhere. I was scrolling,
so, like, bam, there it is.
Yeah, front page of YouTube, Cloverfield Lane, and I was like, what? Because I'm always on the lookout. So I was like, how did I miss this? Scrolling into the comments though, everybody missed it because no one knew. And considering it's done by J.J. Abrams, who is
the secret man,
public limelight at the moment with Star Wars and stuff, you would have thought someone somewhere would have found a paper trail that no one found anything.
Well, the thing, we knew the movie existed as The Cellar and whatever else it was. I'm pretty sure this, like, a version of the script was out there. I feel like I looked through it maybe like a year ago or something, just out of pure coincidence.
I never clocked it.
It wasn't as like a Cloverfield thing. I think that's why Damien Chazelle came in, just to put in the stuff that actually needs to be there.
But that's something I'm really excited for. There's a lot of films that I'm looking forward to coming out this year. So there's Civil War, we've talked about that already, really impressive trailer. Cloverfield Lane, really impressive trailer.
Doctor Strange is out at the end of the year.
Suicide
Squad's out in August.
Suicide Squad, it's bizarre though, because the Suicide Squad is looking so strong, but Batman vs Superman is looking terrible.
I don't know if I wouldn't say Suicide Squad's looking super strong. Super strong is it? Superpowers.
Superpowers. Good segue.
I would say it looks very edgy for the sake of edgy, sort of like an angsty teenage Hot Topic. It looks like someone walked into Hot Topic and made a film about it.
The most recent trailer impressed me. I wasn't fully on board with it up until then.
See, I've been fully on board with it from the start. I had real faith in it as a property to come aboard, because I've read little bits and I've looked at online, researched it, and it seemed really interesting. And then when I saw it, I thought, this is going to be good, because it's very rare that we see a film based around bad guys. So I was looking forward to that, plus Harley Quinn. The great thing is, when The Wolf of Wall Street came out, the first time that we saw Margot Robbie, first time we saw her in The Wolf of Wall Street, I remember watching that film and going, she would make a fantastic Harley Quinn. Like, I called it whilst watching that film, Harley Quinn, she would be good. A few years later, when the announcement comes out, I'm like, I bloody called that all those years ago. The one thing I am disappointed in, though, from the trailers, is it appears that she's not sticking with Harley's signature Brooklyn accent, which is kind of disappointing.
It's in there, it's like in the first trailer when she's in the car, it's like, I hope you got insurance.
So I didn't pick up on it. And considering she had a Brooklyn accent in The Wolf of Wall Street as well, which is another one of the things that drew me to her as a potential casting choice.
I think it'll be in there at some point.
I hope so.
DC stuff that is fun. Supergirl and Flash.
Funsies.
Shining beams of sunlight each week.
And
Flash is going to be on Supergirl.
Oh yeah, the crossover. I heard about that, even though I don't watch any of the DC TV shows. So I watched Gotham for a bit, but then Channel 5, who broadcasts it here in England, decided that they were going to cut it for like 7 weeks, so I just gave up, stopped.
But they've been like umming and ahhing about Flash and Supergirl and Arrow kind of being crossing over. And it seems like they're not in the same universe, because Supergirl's acknowledged Superman as being a thing, so it's like probably the Flash will travel into the
dimension,
universe.
like Flashpoint. which was really cool. Other news I found out this week, Voltron is getting a Netflix animated series, so that's pretty cool. I remember vaguely from when I was younger, I used to watch Power Rangers, which had the Megazord, which is the giant robot that formed out of different things, and then I saw Voltron and I was like, wow, that's just ripping off Power Rangers. Little did I know that the idea of massive robots over cities have been a thing for several years. As I've said, I really enjoy kaiju films, so a animated series about a massive robot and stuff is really quite up my street, so I'm looking forward to that. I've not found any information about plot points. All I know is that it's getting a Netflix animated series. So
What do you think will be better, that or Fuller House?
I've never seen Fuller House.
But, you probably don't want to.
Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't think I want to, so I'm going to go for Voltron on that vote.
And on that Fuller segue...
oh, it's exciting.
That was really well. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That was a good segue.
I've been playing you all.
Yeah. You played
playing
yourself. Congratulations.
Shall I go on to my news?
Yeah, you've been
Brian
done.
Fuller.
Yeah, do it.
Brian Fuller's going to be showrunner of the next Star Trek series.
Oh yeah, they're bringing it back to TV,
Yeah.
aren't
They
they?
are.
Yeah.
To
bring
go
it back.
boldly where no Brian Fuller show has gone before, a fourth
Yeah,
season.
more season, please.
It's on their streaming set. I think they're showing the first episode on TV, kind of enticing people to then use the streaming service.
We live in
Give it a
exciting times.
Yeah.
There's just
Yeah.
comic book, sci-fi stuff just coming out all over the shop. So,
Just everywhere.
All over the entire shop.
talking of
Literally.
things
coming
coming...
all over the shop.
Yeah, I got arrested for that once.
Clean up in aisle 3.
Yeah, talking of things coming back to TV, Walking Dead came back Sunday, so it was second half of season 6. Lots of stuff happened.
It was all brown. There was a lot of
Yeah,
brown.
there's a
Those
lot of
Walking
blood.
Dead.
Yeah, those zombies everywhere, and lots of those characters, or just one of those characters died. I won't spoil which one it was. But
Bet you it had words in it.
yeah, I enjoy Walking Dead for the most part though, so I'm happy to see it back. I'll keep watching it. It's nice to have something to watch on a weekend again
But will it beat Last Week Tonight with John Oliver? The premium choice.
of weekend entertainment.
It's on HBO. It's more than TV.
Yeah, that brings us to the end of the news, and it's on to our next segment, the world famous, not quite Daily Ridley, where we bring you anything and everything to do with Star Wars. This week's news is that Star Wars is getting an electronica album, and my god, does it sound fucking awful. What they've essentially done is Disney, in their infinite money-grabbing wisdom, have decided
Very good at
that
it.
they would outsource some of the most famous sound bites from Star Wars. So we're talking R2-D2's bleeping, the Mos Eisley Cantina tune,
Darth Vader's breathing.
Darth Vader's breathing. They outsource a few snippets to a few up-and-coming and quite famous DJs and electronica artists who have stuck them into a song. So because it has some link to Star Wars, it can then be marketed as a Star Wars electronica album, and they will sell that for many, many pennies. And it's just... it's horribly unimpressive. I mean, I'm gonna try and play a little bit of one here. Let's play Cantina Boys.
What a star.
It's just great. So you can
I'm really
kind-
feeling it.
Yeah.
When you're in the cantina, there'd be a Twi'lek on the other side of the floor.
I'm gonna stop that because I can't handle any more.
Then they play your song.
Yeah.
Da-da-da.
So you can hear very slightly where they've taken the infamous Cantina tune and just kind of looped it into an awful electronica thing. And
Well, I feel like I should just put out that I don't think it's too awful. Like if it would just had the Star Wars stuff taken away from it.
yeah,
If it had all
this
the
is
Star
the
Wars
thing,
stuff.
because
yeah.
I mean I don't listen to electronica music personally, but when it is brought to something I love so much, I will listen to it. I.e., I've listened to this sample and I don't like it. Electronica is not music to my ear holes.
I
So
quite like electronic music.
it just seems to be this money-grabbing sabotage of tiny... I mean, that's what gets me as well. If you're going to license the Star Wars thing, license quite a lot of it, not just a small snippet which someone then loops into their song. They're going to make a load of money off this anyway.
Nah, nobody's buying it. We hope.
I mean, the one we just listened to then is by Bauer, if I've pronounced it right, who was the infamous guy
Guy
who
in 24.
remixed the Harlem Shake. So,
It's memeing already.
yeah, I'm gonna let's see what's this one like.
Which one's this one?
This one is Rick Rubin.
NRG7.
Yeah, NRG7.
Don't pretend.
NRG.
I know.
How dare you
Annabelle's an
know this?
electronica expert.
I'm an expert. I listened to these before it came out.
I mean, what is this?
I'm not a huge fan of that one or the other one, which I can't even remember its bloody name.
That says a lot about it.
So
I'm going to stop this.
yeah.
It's terrible. It's clearly just a cash grab, and it's really grinding my gears quite a lot. I'd been some really successful reiterations of famous Star Wars music in the past. Like there was one Mecco who did a disco version, but rather than just using a loop, they did the whole song, and it was really impressive. I'm going to play a little clip of that here. So yeah, you can't pause it. So
Nobody
you
can stop the
see-
Soul Train.
So you can see that it's just a nice little disco remix of some Star Wars music, and it works considering as well that Star Wars came out in the 70s, which was it was disco time, my
thematically fits.
disco
Yes.
dudes.
Although,
so
admittedly, you can say that the new Star Wars has come out and it's electronica time.
I
Electronica
guess,
dudes.
yeah, I guess so. I could, yeah.
So it's fitting of our generation.
I just don't like it. Basically, this show is me taking out my personal grudges on things I don't like, but legitimising it because
Well,
we have.
I'm not 100% standing up for it, by the way, because I do think it is a massive cash grab, and
Yeah.
it does not need the majority of the sound bites. It just seems useless. It seems bizarre. And yes, I do agree with you on that.
Oh.
But on the bright side, episode 8 is now filming.
Yes,
Yay!
bright side. Look for the silver lining, Stuart Little. Yeah, episode 8 is filming, so it's nice to hear that that's on its way to being made.
Especially considering we just talked about the delay.
Yeah, the delay that we heard about last week. I mean, the one thing I will look into news if I hear about, and I can just imagine this happening, is that one day Ewan McGregor turns up on set and he's like, right guys, we're doing this, I've bought my own lightsaber, I'm now in this film. Anakin!
Then you are lost.
Anakin, I have felt your presence.
He just appears from the side of. He's just in the corner of the screen for one shot. Just
Oh, and it starts
That's
1,000 fan theories.
Oh, it'll be glorious.
That's something I hope will happen, but
Yes.
Nothing else to really
It's
say
unlikely.
about that
Yeah.
at the moment.
So, I mean, that's literally it. Episode 8 is filming. So, with that brings our world-famous segment, The Daily Ridley, to a close. Please don't sue us. So now on to our main topic for the week. We're talking Deadpool. Just been released in cinemas on Wednesday, and it's on everybody's lips. Everyone's talking about Deadpool.
Yeah.
So we thought we would take this opportunity to talk about it as well. We've all seen it at some point since it was released. We have things to say. We're going to go for no spoilers, so you can listen to this and hopefully it won't spoil it, because we appreciate it's quite close to it first coming out and not everyone will have seen it yet, so you can watch this knowing that it is spoiler free. So let's start with the positives.
Yes.
Yes.
This is always
Let's
a good,
Ryan
good start.
Reynolds.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds
Big
is
positive.
Ryan Reynolds is good.
He's basically cut out for the role.
Yeah.
Like Robert Downey Jr. is for Iron Man and all.
Yeah,
of that.
yeah,
Ryan
he
Reynolds
is Deadpool, and rightfully so. I mean, he's got a passion and affinity for the character.
Yeah.
He's been slated to play Deadpool for something like 11 years.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
right.
He
at this point.
finally got his chance in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and we all know how well that went.
Yeah.
To the point that people are saying, it's not Deadpool.
Yeah,
Not
it's-
really him. It's really, really not him.
Yeah, so after the events of Days of Future Past, X-Men film where the timelines were wiped, we can have this safely.
This freedom.
Yeah. Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is really, really good. He knows the character, he's got an obvious passion for it, he wants to be there, and you can tell he's just taking that role with open arms.
It's not just him, there are other people in that cast that are really good as well.
Yes, yeah, the
Marina
cast as a
Baccarin
whole.
and TJ Miller are really, really good people.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
TJ Miller is funny, as he is in everything.
Yeah,
He's really
Silicon
quite
Valley.
amusing. Yeah, the chemistry between Reynolds and Morena is brilliant. Their on-screen characters, Wade and Vanessa. To me, the relationship feels really visceral. It feels real passionate. I find that I am rooting for them throughout the film. The other thing I really enjoyed about this film was the Deadpool suit. That was,
that was
so comic accurate. It was something to behold. It was really good.
And those eyes.
Yes, we're finally getting animated eyes. In comic books, their eyes are always used, even on a suit, to really animate the characters. Spider-Man and Deadpool, particularly, because they've got such big eyes in their masks, they're always used to display a range of emotion. And it's something we've never seen in films before now. So it's really nice to see that they are using the eyes in the mask to portray all these different types of emotion and facial expressions. It really brings another level to it. For the fact that they have opened with that in a Deadpool film, it is really quite a Deadpool characteristic, so it's really nice to see.
There are some things that they wouldn't work with, like Captain America, you don't need it for the camera or anything.
Look at him, he looks so inspiring in his animated eyes there.
But in the case of the full suit,
the full spandex
you might as well go
bodysuit.
all the way at this point.
It's
now.
like you can compare them to the Spider-Man franchises that have previously been. Like, you don't get that same range of emotion, especially with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, exactly. The eyes are static, so it's nice to see them move. But
buckle up, everyone.
This is where we begin. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is where the negatives come in. As you can see, we've had maybe 5 good things to say about
We've got a handful. We've got a nice round
that's a nice,
handful
like a
there.
smattering there.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be intentionally controversial here, is I think a point we should make clear before we go into it.
Yeah.
We were all excited, I think me and Annabelle in particular.
We were on the hype train.
I was really looking forward to this.
I wasn't kind of on board throughout it all, but when we decided we were going to go see it, I kind of cleared my mind of that. Kind of going neutral, not expecting Best Picture winner, but not
film.
not going out of my way to hate it straight away.
For all of us looking forward to it so much, we came out disappointed. I felt let down.
There was that
sort of saddened
moment, kind of at the end, realizing
like, so would you like to start?
Can you hear the people cheer?
And
Do we know why?
When we got around to discussing it, it was just all 3 of us. It wasn't like one of us had come in going, I loved it, and then got beaten down by the other 2. We all came in unanimously agreeing that it was disappointing.
Oh God, yes, I agree with you.
I think what let it down the most for me was the really generic plot.
It was so generic.
Yeah, there was nothing to it. It was a by-the-numbers, piece-by-piece superhero film that we've seen 1,000 times before, and we were led to believe by the marketing campaign that it was going to be this next-level superhero film. It was going to reinvigorate the genre and bring it this whole new level of enjoyment.
It's like someone told... I was talking to someone, they hadn't seen it and all of that, and they were just like, it's like this sort of parody of superhero movies, sort of, in that Deadpool's got all of these other characters like fourth wall breaking and all that, but it's not a parody because it's not aware enough of itself. It can't parody superhero movies because it is just a regular superhero movie.
And in the marketing material really, really led me to believe that it was going to be a really solid film, and the fourth wall breaking that Deadpool is so well known for was going to be utilised effectively. And whilst we saw a lot of fourth wall breaking, it was never for anything more than a cheap gag. There was nothing there. And the plot is just paint by numbers. There is a guy, he becomes a superhero, he has a problem, he overcomes the problem, end of film.
Neatly tied up at the... There's not even... And the thing about the plot is, there's not even... Where there's a sequel has been greenlit, there is not even room for a sequel.
Yeah, you could. This could be a standalone
so
film.
Tied up.
Yeah,
it's so like
I don't think
blandly
it should be
tied up. Like, what is there left?
I don't think it should be tied up as easily. It doesn't. It feels kind of almost as if it was changed at some point.
Yeah. And for all the fourth wall breaking we were promised, to have a flat plot like that would be acceptable if, for instance, at the end Deadpool had turned to the camera and gone, well, that was a bit flat, but what more were you expecting? Stay tuned for the sequel. Just something like that to really
something
bring
like
the
that
meta.
shows that he was aware of the fact this film was crap. Sorry, not crap.
You'll spoil the score.
Generic.
It wouldn't entirely excuse it, but like that, something like that would kind of help.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an origin story. I've kind of seen reviews online excusing it because of that, but I think it's the time it spends on the origin. Like, whatever the running time is, because it says that it's 108 minutes. It feels like it spends at least 50 minutes on it, I want to say.
Yeah, the origin is spaced out throughout quite a considerable chunk of the film.
Yeah, so it's going to be difficult to provide an accurate number for that.
Yeah, because the film is played in non-chronological order, so you start as he is already Deadpool, and then he catches you up with how this happened. So the origin is interjected throughout the first, I would say, 50 minutes, but
Like
it feels like a long time is spent on the origin.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to tell the story. The whole thing of, like, traditionally a superhero movie will have all origin and then he'll become the superhero instead of, like, flashing back and all of that, like, between and having him narrate over. However, it doesn't really do anything. It just sort of, it's an interesting thing, but if anything, it just sort of makes it a bit boring and difficult to track.
I think it needs to start with that, because it starts with kind of the highway stuff that you've seen in the marketing and the test footage.
Like, it's a big change of pace between that sort of thing.
Otherwise, you're waiting quite a while to hit kind of like a main action scene.
Yeah.
Like, you won't see Deadpool for a while.
Yeah, if it was chronological, the action would not kick in for a considerable amount of time, which could have ruined the movie even more.
Like, I'd say you'd probably get like a 5-minute scene kind of showing Wade Wilson, the mercenary, then about 20 of kind of him and Vanessa.
It's interesting because it seems that the marketing campaign used almost all of the plot in adverts.
Almost all the good parts. Sorry, I interrupted you there. Because when they showed just the, like, highway scene over and over, I was thinking maybe they're saving other stuff to show, like, keep in the film to keep suspense. Maybe it's a really
that's
good
what I
marketing
assumed
thing.
as
like,
well.
It's one of 2 action scenes, essentially.
There are basically 2 action scenes, and both of those are in trailers.
Yeah, the second of those being kind of with Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. It feels kind of redundant after a while. Like, there's not much variety in it.
I mean, the film essentially can be broken down into about 5 sequences, roughly, and 4 of those were used in advertising material, and that really affected it, because I was expecting, like Annabelle said, that the marketing had only used small chunks, but to then go in the film and go, I've seen all this, I've seen that, I haven't seen that, I've seen that.
Yeah. It's like ticking off boxes when you get to it, like, yep, that's happened, that's happened, oh no, that's a new thing, but it's not funny, it's not done anything, but it's new.
Yeah.
We and the rest of the internet have given Batman vs Superman some stick for that second trailer, which feels very much like a play-by-play. I imagine was done to bring in the international audiences who weren't necessarily going to see it, because I think statistics have shown that Japanese people kind of go to the cinema once they know what's going to happen.
Okay, that's
like,
interesting.
This Japanese trailer for Star Wars says quite a bit.
The Japanese don't like surprises. I wonder why.
Jesus Christ.
You're just going to go out on the radio. Good God.
They like Takeshi's Castle, though. They don't know what's behind the doors.
Similarly to the marketing campaign revealing a lot of the plot, the marketing campaign also uses nearly all of the jokes. All of the comedy, except for a few pieces, is
in
used.
the sequence that it doesn't show.
Yeah, the one sequence that they don't show is obviously the one sequence that jokes have not been taken from. Everything else, though, I think there were maybe 2 jokes I can think of that landed because they weren't previously seen in advertising.
I'd say the credits land. When the opening ones were happening, and it's kind of like, ooh.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because the opening credits are very fourth wall breaking, and you from the start you think, oh yeah, this is Deadpool. This is the fourth wall breaking that we wanted to see. It's
I was
very
thinking it was going to be pretty good at that point.
Yeah, but then it's almost like they used all of the meta comedy and the real insightful stuff in the opening credits, and then snap to everything we've already seen. It's I can think of the X-Men related jokes, the L cancer joke, and the setup and eventual realization of the taxi joke, which is really well done, that one. But besides that, all of the other jokes were used, so I was in the cinema with people around me really laughing and enjoying it, and I'm only raising chuckles, and in quite a lot of occasions not even laughing at all, sitting there thinking, should I be? And then one joke would come around that would land and I would laugh at it, but that's almost how the film goes. It fires one-liners at you until one joke eventually hits, and then it goes straight back to continuously firing them at.
That's definitely the thing. Like, Naked Gun
Yeah.
has probably like the highest density for jokes I've seen.
Oh, sorry, I love the Naked Gun. It's
And
great.
some of them don't land, but
Yeah.
the majority do because it feels relevant and it's kind of doing subversion and things. Whereas this is kind of unrelenting, almost as if it knows that some of them aren't going to land, so it needs to have a better one in there.
Yeah. The point of Deadpool is it's supposed to be meta.
Yeah, he's
So
kind of aware of being...
he's aware he's a character in a comic book. In this, he's aware that he is a character in a film, but it's never used beyond the cheap laughs.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that I have with it, is I was expecting it to be this witty, intelligent comedy with insightful satirising what superhero movies are now, and it just didn't do that.
Yeah.
I guess what you could look at is the way that the Jump Streets, like 21, 22 Jump Street, satirise and parody the buddy cop movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that 22 Jump Street
Yeah,
satirises
22
21 Jump Street.
Yeah, and it
And it's-
satirises
yeah.
itself. So I mean, they're incredibly intelligent and they're very funny, and that's what Deadpool should have been to the
Yeah.
Yeah, for the
genre.
superhero genre,
Yeah.
but it wasn't, which was really unfortunate. And in many senses, there were some adverts for it that were funnier than the film for me. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Australia Day promotion for Deadpool. If you saw that, I was cracking up at that. I had tears in my eyes, and I was thinking, yeah, this is nothing but a good sign for the
Yeah.
film, surely. And I never had that reaction while sitting in the cinema. So it just really let me down. I was led to believe, I would even go as far to say I was promised that this film would be a gut-busting, intelligent, satirical commentary full of action and gory, gratuitous violence.
Yes.
And it had none of that.
Well, it had it, it didn't execute it well enough, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it had the possibility for a lot of like cool gratuitous violence, as you say. Like it did have the bit where and I'm pretty sure this is in a trailer, he skewers the man
Yes.
with his katana. Oh God, I can't even remember. Are they
Katanas, yeah.
Katanas. And that is obviously gratuitous violence and all that. But it could have been made much cooler. It sounds like a really bad, like, first world problems, guys. It could have been cooler katana fights.
You weeaboo.
But it's like, and I keep bringing this up, it's like, look at the gratuitous violence of Kill Bill. That's cartoon violence, done incredibly well and incredibly vividly.
Precisely,
and
yeah,
brightly
exactly.
And stylistically.
Exactly. Because Deadpool, it came out big news. It's an R-rated film. It's an R-rated film. There's going to be, it's going to be amazing. And I was expecting Tarantino levels of cartoony violence. And whilst there's a lot of blood and you see what happens, you're never like, oh my God, that's grotesque, because you know it's not real. Tarantino's violence isn't built to replicate reality. It's built to be cartoonish, almost amusing, and I was expecting that with an R rating, and Deadpool, it doesn't make a good case for R-rated superhero films whatsoever.
I wonder if part of it's the fact that we've seen the test footage and everything, so we're like not necessarily desensitized, but it's not shocking.
I mean, perhaps it is a
it's not-
wider social problem that we're desensitized to violence, that we're sitting here going,
Yeah.
give me more!
You've joined
I'm
us on the
hungry for
philosophy hour.
When you don't look at it that deeply, it's. I feel my example that I came up with is that he stabs a lot of people, but you never see any sort of blood spray out immediately. If blood sprays, it is Matthew's phone's going off there.
Start again.
If blood sprays, the artery or the limb that has come from is off screen. Any heads that are chopped off are heads in motorcycle helmets. Any things that are cut through or shot are off screen. And it's all edited in a very clever way so that the violence is shown but not directly. And I would expect that of a PG-13 film, not an R-rated film.
I don't think it's necessarily a 12A. It kind of fits with being a 15 here in the UK, but I don't think it deserves an R. It has to be the nudity in the movie that's caused them to do it because of the way that it...
I think the nudity wasn't necessary.
It's kind of minimal.
I don't know. I think the nudity and the sex wasn't integral to the plot. It was
It was a joke. It was used.
yeah,
as a joke.
it was used as another joke, and so I would rather they cut that out and had put in more violence and more sort of
Give us less sex. Give us more violence.
Oh man, I'm a proper caveman. But I just think they could have cut out the nudity in favour of bringing the cartoonish, gratuitous violence that we expect from a Deadpool film. They didn't strike the balance well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as Matthew said, I just don't think the R rating was deserved. The perception of Deadpool and the plot that it's laid out is very Facebook perception of Deadpool, in that he's this, oh man, there's a cosplayer with a nice butt, I'm going to give that a slap. Oh, there's Harley Quinn, oh, they're going to give her a slap. Oh man, there's a chimichanga, I'm going to give that an E. Oh man, I've got a bag full of guns and I'm dragging it around. Deadpool. Love the memes.
It's kind of Daniel Way's run in, I want to say, like, kind of once he finished with the book, he did an interview. At some point he admitted, I wrote it because it was easy.
Yeah.
Kind of to sprinkle some jokes in, action. And one of the scene to do with the pizza is, as far as I know, lifted from his run.
Yeah.
And I feel that's indicative of the tone. Because Deadpool can be written with complexity and nuance.
Yeah.
And kind of dealing with the deeper aspects of his personality, like the schizophrenia and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is what I was expecting, is that it was going to be this kind of investigation into his self-loathing and his psyche, but in a black humour-based way. Yeah. So it was going to be making it comical.
Yeah, it's not that's not in the trailers, but it's what you expect, kind of knowing the better runs of Deadpool.
Yeah, exactly. But what they seem to have chosen to have done is written a story for Ryan Reynolds' great characterisation, but they've placed it in a story where it is aimed at 14-year-olds who garnered their understanding from Deadpool off of the more childlike runs of the comics. So they've targeted it at 14-year-olds in a film that is, in our country, only available to be seen if you are 15 or over.
Oh yeah, the sleepovers are going to love it in 6
months
when the DVD's out.
I was set up to believe it was going to be something so clever and so new and fresh and indicative of the Deadpool that I've come to understand in reading comics, but it was very paper thin.
I'd rather it go for bigger laughs, less softened.
Yeah, more thought out jokes.
Like, if every joke's going to land, that's great.
Yeah,
if 50% of your jokes are going to land, maybe that's an issue.
Which is the issue that they do have in here.
Go for quality, not quantity, eh?
Yes.
The tried and true idioms.
So what sort of rating would you give it? How many? Hey, that's pretty good. Out of 10, would you give that? How many memes did you have watching this film?
When we first talked about it, I was maybe more lenient on it than you guys, or maybe I'm just kind of more lenient in my ratings anyway. And then I said it was like a 6.5, and then you could give it half a point or a point either way. I do think it's a 4 or a 5 now.
Yeah. I'm going to go with 4 or 5.
I mean, I would give it a 4 on plot. So looking at the story with no appreciation for anything else, it would be a 4. But given the passion that Ryan Reynolds has for it, the time and effort he's put in, and then the spectacular casting that they also put on top of that, it moves it up to a 5, maybe pushing it to a 6.
Yeah, you can make a push for that, but I don't think you can go higher than 7.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, you can go with plot and story and all of that, and almost everything bar the casting and the passion and Ryan Reynolds. You can say as a 4, maybe less. Ryan Reynolds and the passion and the casting and all of that, that's like an 8. That's fantastic. Or a 9. I'm so glad they had so much passion for the project, but what did they do with this story? Why would you take...
It's been 9 years, how has no one asked for something better?
Why would you take a 9 rating casting job and bump that down to a 4-level story?
Yeah, exactly. Slap a 9 onto a 4.
If it had managed to accomplish something, and even if it was flawed and kind of went, you understand why we need R-rated superhero movies, right?
Yeah.
We'd probably be giving it a higher... I don't think it's a bad movie. I think
on
on average, if you polled everyone and they walked out of the theatre maybe a week after they'd seen it, the average rating would come out to around a 7.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. It's not a bad movie.
No, exactly.
It's a mediocre one, I think.
Yeah, I think this is the thing we should stress. It's a middling film. It's entirely watchable. I would say go and see it and judge for yourself. I will go and see a sequel if one is produced, which there almost definitely will be. And I'm almost inclined to give it a second chance, but perhaps not. But this is the point. It's entirely watchable. So
there's potential there. And
it's got so much potential. It's not a bad film. It's never going to end up on your worst films of all time list. It just, unfortunately, the marketing campaign led us to believe it was going to be a top of the roster film, and it fell flat of that, and therefore it lands in the middle because of how much it disappointed me.
And this is why you don't spend so much on marketing. Spend more on the actual film, perhaps.
Go and see it.
Yeah, make your own decision.
And then tell us what you think. contact us on Twitter, give us an email in the studio. All the information for that will be at the end of the show.
Angry at us for our own opinion.
If we want to know if we're in a minority or if it is a general feeling amongst the public. So do email us in and let us know.
If you want more Deadpool, look to Remender's Uncanny X-Force, the Marvel Now run by Duggan and Persane, and the Joe Kelly stuff, like the stuff that people acclaim. Kind of see whether your intro to Deadpool's the jokes, and then you kind of see what else is there, kind of underneath the surface.
Yeah, if you want more Deadpool, those are the recommendations.
Also, if we want to speak technically, I have had some replies.
Ooh, we've got some replies. I'm excited for this.
Some
this
people
is after
have already
the US
contacted Matthew.
Yeah, this is after the US general release. So discussion threads were going up on websites. I'll just kind of go over the review my post to kind of provide some context. Is that I said it was disappointing. The plot was non-existent. And kind of pointed out the sequences that we've spoken about.
Yes.
Okay. And I went to bed.
And as you woke up, millions of replies had flooded.
Where do I start?
Oh goodness, this is sounding worrying already.
Wait for director's cut to make judgment. It's like,
okay.
Clearly I shouldn't
Can we not judge based on the film that's already out there?
Yeah, don't judge on the film that's in the cinema.
Look away, little child.
That's a well-reasoned response.
Said the 11-year-old who wrote that, and his mum called him down for dinner.
To be fair, it's an origin story. Damn, get laid, dude.
Okay. Oh my god. That's...
I believe this one is my favourite. Tips Fedora. My guess, this guy is £300 and just hates everything.
Oh, wow.
Oh my god.
What a bizarre
Daisy Ridley
reaction.
can deadlift £176. She can deadlift 2 of me.
Some people have some strange reactions to others' opinions.
Yeah.
The internet's memeing Golden Boy with their
dead memes.
Dead memes.
That's all the movie's going to be in 6 months because it'll be hopelessly outdated. Who's going to remember the Jared from Subway joke?
Yeah. After that nice discussion about Deadpool there, we now move on to our letters section, where any interesting messages we've got from Twitter or via the email, we read them out, so then we can put that in. No.
You mean that asshole guy you were talking about didn't send one?
Oh shit! Yeah, no, he didn't in the
Damn.
end. So
damn.
That was disappointing. I'm hoping that he might, so I can read it out on air. But
Wait, are we talking about interesting messages anyway? Because I got one from Domino's earlier.
Oh right.
Yeah, and I've gotten well wishes from my mum.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a lot of well wishes from family as well. All my reviews came from family. They said it was great.
Said it was good. It went well. Yeah.
Although we did find out that we were playing in the shop on campus, which was exciting.
We've gone full meta because they can hear us now.
Hello, Essentials.
Hello there. Hello me if I'm back in Essentials.
If you can hear us, come stand outside the CSRfm windows and we'll shout you out.
We got a lot of well wishes from family and such. I was contacted by a guy that I used to know telling us that he was going to send in some abuse for banter, so I'm looking forward to receiving that. Unfortunately, this week we've had no correspondence, but if you do, you can find us on Twitter or email us. All the details on that will come at the end of the show. So now we move on to our weekly recommendations. This is where we tell you all the things that we've been reading or watching, things that we might recommend, just to kind of, catch you up on what we're looking at the moment. So I'm currently rereading Jonathan Ross's comics, the famous radio presenter Jonathan Ross. I'm reading his comics. He writes his own comics. One is called America's Got Powers, which is a really interesting comic book where all pregnant women in America suddenly give birth and all the children have powers, so it's this really interesting story. I won't reveal much about it than that. You can read it for yourself. It's like oh my god. Excuse me.
Jesus Christ.
I had curry for dinner. But you can read it. It's like £6 on Amazon. Yeah, and I'm also reading his other comic book, which is Turf, which is a really cool sort of noir 1930s PI gangster type comic. It's really good, really well written, really nice story to it. Also, apparently, Jonathan Ross is in talks with Matthew Vaughn, director of Kick-Ass and Kingsmen, to turn it into a film. So I would like to see that.
That'll be fabulous.
So those are 2 things that I'm reading. And I've also, last week I said I was watching the Clone Wars. I finally finished that. It was absolutely brilliant. And I've moved on to watching the Disney-produced Star Wars cartoon, Rebels. I've watched 2 episodes so far. I'm not massively impressed. But
that's the right feeling, I think, at that point.
The art style doesn't hold a candle to the Clone Wars. The first 2 episodes are very, very child-orientated, being spoon-fed what's going to happen. I'm not enjoying it, but I am reserving a set-in-stone judgment in hope that it will get better.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think you can catch up to where it is now in less than 10 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's not that big of a time commitment.
Cracking on with that over the next couple of days. So yeah, that's what I'm reading and watching, recommending stuff at the moment.
Right. I'll go with iZombie. It's a show from CW by Rob Thomas and Diane Ruggiero Wright, who brought us Veronica Mars in the mid 2000s. It's about Olivia Moore, who was a promising medical student, but then she died. But then she got better. And now she works at the morgue in order to get her supply of brains, and it's kind of dealing with zombies and crimes, and she can get visions from eating the brains.
Interesting. That sounds
really witty.
Yeah.
Things like that. Also playing Shovel Knight, which is a 2D platformer that was kickstarted a couple of years ago.
I've heard about that. It looks good. I've been seeing playthroughs of that online.
It's like a more accessible Mega Man, I would say.
Okay.
Like in Mega Man, if you make a mistake, you're dead.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas there's a fair bit of leniency.
Okay.
Shall I go on to what I've been reading and watching?
Yeah, do your bit.
I shall do my bit. I've been reading. I've literally just started reading Unfollow by Rob Williams and Mike Dowling.
Oh, is that the thing that started this year or last year?
But it's only a few issues in. It's like based around social media and sort of, I don't know what to say without making it spoiling.
There's like a rich guy kind of
sort of like playing Battle Royale across continent for money sort of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Does Jesse Eisenberg betray Spider-Man to get more Facebook shares and launch a very successful social network? Is that what happened?
Is that what the latest Batman vs Superman trailer told us? It's part of like the Vertigo revival that they attempted last year. Things like The Twilight Children and Sheriff of Babylon, and there's a new Lucifer book coming out to coincide with the TV show.
I've been watching Arrested Development, rewatching it for the 50th time. I've been watching Arrested Development. I can quote full lines. I can speak along, lip sync to the show. But at this point, it's embarrassing. Everyone go watch it.
Season 5 might be out this year.
Yes!
There's always the dream.
I know. Oh, there's always the dream that it'll be out
And
soon.
Also the dream the cast members might be in the same room.
I've never seen this show.
You've got to watch it. You've got to watch it.
I'm just sitting here like,
That's what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing for all your comic stuff. Now I get to talk.
We gave you the fuller news.
I get the fuller news.
You were allowed to be happy this week.
I was allowed to be happy about some things.
That brings us to the end of the show. Another episode, another week. We are Who Knew. We broadcast an hour-long show every single Monday on CSRfm, 6 till 7, and then upload the full version to iTunes afterwards as a podcast. You can find us on iTunes just by searching Who Knew. I also upload the show to YouTube as a podcast for anyone who doesn't have iTunes. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook by searching Who Knew Pod, and Shit, I'm going to start this again. That was fucking terrible.
Looks like we're not putting out the full uncut one on iTunes this time.
Yeah, no. Bloody hell. With that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for listening. Fuck! I can't. Well, I don't know.
Thank you for listening, fuck.
I'm losing my, mid-sentence.
I'll go for it.
I'm bloody losing my streak. Okay. I've got this. Okay. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Who Knew Pod. You can also go to our official website, which is whoknew.podbean.com, where our podcast and all our links will be available. The three of us are also on Twitter. I can be found at BTDoobs. That's BTDOOBZ. Matthew can be found at
Matt_Sibley.
And Annabelle at
Unsatisfied. Every time I say it, I have to re-look up my name. Okay. Unsatisfied. UNSOTISFIED.
Awesome. As always, we welcome you to email us here at the show, whoknewpod@gmail.com. So that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That's fucking terrible.